So here's the top reason why Donald Trump is probably going to end up winning on appeal. So number one reason is the fact that Justice Juan Merchan of the New York Supreme Court really should not have been involved in Donald Trump's hush money trial in the first place. Justice Merchan, who oversaw the case that resulted in 34 felony convictions for the former president, should have been stepped aside, especially after Donald Trump's legal team asked him specifically to disqualify himself. Even though an appeals court recently decided that Donald Trump didn't have a clear right to ask for the judge's recusal, I do think that we're going to see this issue gain more clarity during the upcoming appeal of Donald Trump's conviction, set to happen right after his sentencing next month. They talked about this on a recent episode of the McCarthy Report podcast. Former federal prosecutor Andrew C. McCarthy and National Review editor Rich Lowry, they even laid out 10 grounds on which the Donald Trump legal team could actually demand that the verdicts against Donald Trump be tossed out. You heard that right, guys. Tossed out. Basically, they need a solid claim of error to pause the sentencing scheduled for July 11th. And according to McCarthy, Merchan's actions provide plenty of evidence and ammunition for a claim like this to go through. All right, so first and foremost, the outright fact that two major Democratic clients of Judge Juan Merchan's daughter have raised at least $93 million in campaign donations and have used the case in their solicitation emails. I mean, we're talking about the daughter of the judge overseeing Donald Trump's hush money trial here, guys, not to mention his sentencing next month. Senator Adam Schiff and the Senate Majority Political Action Committee, the two major Democratic clients of Lauren Merchan, have been fundraising off of the presumptive GOP presidential frontrunner's unprecedented 34-count indictment and now conviction. I mean, this has got to be some sort of violation here, right? And that's what we're going to be looking at today, all these anomalies, and more importantly, estimate Donald Trump's chances at his appeal thanks to the ethical oversights of Juan Merchan. First, let's hear from Representative Elise Stefanik, who at a recent House weaponization of the federal government committee hearing, enumerating a whole list of alleged lawfare tactics that the other side is using against former President Donald Trump.
Isn't it correct that Michael Colangelo, who was the third highest ranking official in Biden's DOJ, was transferred to Bragg's office to run this weaponized prosecution of President Trump? Isn't that true?
Not only true, but it's unheard of.
Unheard of. It's a disgrace. Do you agree that this weaponization of lawfare goes straight to the top with the purpose of helping Joe Biden's failing presidential campaign?
The circumstantial evidence definitely supports that.
And the unconstitutional gag order on President Trump from New York Judge Merchan is unprecedented lawfare.
As far as I know, absolutely.
And let's go to the daughter of the judge. Isn't it true that she is raising millions of dollars off of this sham case?
Well, I have to say I've read that in the media. I don't know it of my own knowledge.
It is true.
There you go, guys. The judge, the Biden prosecutor, the gag order, even the judge's daughter, they're all being called to question now what seems to be a lawfare campaign against the former president. Some are even saying that Lauren Merchan, Judge Merchan's daughter, should go to prison right alongside her father. Now, before we go any further, all I ask is that you guys take a second, hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and sharing this video. I totally appreciate you guys. But seriously, guys, here's exactly why legal experts are all agreeing that Donald Trump has a pretty strong chance on his upcoming appeal. The very simple fact that the New York Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan had no business presiding over Donald Trump's hush money trial. Given the fact of his countless conflicts of interest and that he ended up overseeing a case that led to 34 felony convictions for Trump, I mean, he probably should have excused himself right away from the start, especially after Donald Trump's lawyers specifically asked him to step down. Now, of course, an appeals court ruled that Donald Trump has not established that he has a clear right to recusal. But seriously, guys, I have a very strong feeling that this will come even more clear once Donald Trump appeals his conviction, which is expected to happen right after his sentencing next month. Now, many experts who've looked over his case agree. They think it's a disturbing aberration of how criminal law ought to be used and criminal trials conducted. They've pointed to strong arguments for why Donald Trump could possibly win on appeal, but the standout for me is Judge Juan Merchan's choice to remain involved in this thing. Back in July 2023, the New York State's Commission on Judicial Conduct gave Merchan a slap on the wrist for donating to President Biden's re-election campaign and two anti-Republican PACs, despite rules strictly forbidding such actions. They sent him a caution because the judge had made contributions to President Biden's re-election campaign and to two anti-Republican and anti-Trump political action committees, Progressive Turnout Project and Stop Republicans. Now, just to be clear, guys, New York absolutely prohibits its judges from making such political contributions, So why is he still there? Mershon made small donations, $15 to Biden, $10 to each of the other committees. These might seem like small amounts, but they're quite specific for someone who's committed to judicial ethics, if you know what I mean. People ask, why would anyone make such symbolic statements, having taken an oath to be a judge and abide by the judicial code of ethics? Now, one could think that he was maybe signaling to Biden's team that he would be a good fit for a federal judgeship, or maybe he's just really into Biden, who knows? Or he might simply just dislike Trump a lot. I don't know. We really can't be too sure since he never had to clarify his motivations. Now, about the caution that they issued to Judge Mershon about his political donations, as reported by the New York Times, a caution does not include any penalty, but it can be considered in any future cases reviewed by the state's Commission on Judicial Conduct. Reuters added that under the New York Commission rules, a caution may be taken into consideration in the event of any future misconduct, meaning Judge Mershon could be on the hook if ever a new administration rolls in this November. He could even face some jail time, who knows? As for former President Donald Trump, like the legal analysts have mentioned, this could form the basis of a very solid appeal. Not just a mistrial, but a complete exoneration. At the very least, it proves that he can't get a fair trial in New York City. You know what I mean? Last year, the New York Advisory Committee on Judicial Ethics decided Judge Juan Mershon didn't need to step aside from the Trump case, despite his contributions to Democratic organizations, his daughter's work for Democrats, and Mershon's alleged suggestion to a former Trump organization executive last year that he cooperated against Donald Trump in the company's tax fraud case. But don't worry, guys, as the committee's advice isn't really the final say here. See, Judge Juan Mershon, he could have chosen to recuse himself, and maybe he should have, because if his obvious support for the opposition wasn't a deal breaker, then we should probably ease up on the drama around calls for Supreme Court Justice Samuel A. Alito Jr. to recuse himself from the January 6 related cases because some people disapprove of his wife's choice of flags to display. Former federal prosecutor Andrew C. McCarthy and National Review editor Rich Lowry, they talked about Mershon's conflicts of interest in a podcast recently. So basically, they outlined 10 reasons why Donald Trump's legal team might argue to overturn the verdicts against him. They noted that an appeal to delay sentencing, it needs a solid error claim, and McCarthy dubbed Mershon's conduct a coloring book of such errors. So first off, appellate courts should reevaluate what Mershon's $35 in political donations means to the case. The advisory committee's opinion isn't the end-all be-all on recusal, nor is the initial appeals court decision. So according to McCarthy and Lowry, those refusals to recuse will have to be studied in light of Mershon's many rulings against Trump in the course of the trial. Plus, is there really any doubt that Mershon is influenced by his donations? Maybe in the most anti-Trump circles, and yet he got off pretty lightly from the Judicial Conduct Commission, maybe because it was his first offense and the donations weren't all that big. The judge's apparent lack of concern about how this might look, or maybe just indifference, was something that the advisory committee touched on, and ultimately the commission clearly rebuked the judge last summer for the contributions. Now, from there, they're saying that Mershon's decision not to recuse is mystifying. Now, consider these particulars from New York's rules governing judicial conduct. So we have section 100.2. It provides that a judge shall avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all of the judge's activities. Section 100.4a provides that a judge shall conduct all of the judge's extrajudicial activities so that they do not, number one, cast any kind of reasonable doubt on the judge's capacity to act impartially as the judge. Section 105.a1 provides that neither a sitting judge nor a candidate for public election to judicial office shall directly or indirectly engage in any political activity except as otherwise authorized by this section of law to vote and to identify himself or herself as a member of a political party. Section 100.5a1h also spells it out. A New York judge may not make a contribution to a political organization or candidate. As they said in one article that I read, Mershon is a partisan, and a robe does not disguise the team jersey with the great big D that he's wearing underneath it. Just two of the major Democratic clients of Judge Juan Mershon's daughter have raised at least $93 million in campaign donations, and they used the case in their solicitation emails. The judge's daughter, Juan Mershon, is president of Authentic Campaigns, which is a Chicago-based progressive political consulting firm whose top clients include Representative Adam Schiff, who was the lead prosecutor in Donald Trump's first impeachment trial, and the Senate Majority PAC, a major party fundraiser. Thanks to piggybacking off of Donald Trump's trial, Adam Schiff's campaign for U.S. Senate scored an eye-popping $20 million in aid. I mean, you can read it for yourself, guys. He tells people to rush $10 to his campaign right now to help them prepare for Trump's inevitable attacks and to ensure that they defend the rule of law. Now, at this point, I'm starting to wonder whose rule of law are they actually talking about here? The same with Senate Majority Political Action Committee, which supports Democratic Senate campaigns. They've been able to pocket $73.6 million since it also began firing off fundraising emails following the ex-president's indictment. So the email reads, "We must continue protecting our Senate majority from GOP extremists. Please rush in $10 to help defund the Senate." Constitutional and criminal law attorney Alan Dershowitz said, if the judge's daughter is involved in anti-Trump politics, there seems to be a basis for recusal of the father. Trump said so himself on his Truth Social platform. Judge Juan Merchan, a very distinguished looking man, is nevertheless a true and certified Trump hater who suffers from a very serious case of Trump derangement syndrome. In other words, he hates Trump. He then brings up Lauren Merchan, saying that the daughter is a senior executive at a super liberal Democratic firm that works for Adam Shifty Schiff, the Democratic National Committee, Senate Majority PAC, and even crooked Joe Biden. So according to the former President Donald Trump, maybe the judge is such a hater because his daughter makes money by working to get Trump. And when he rules against him over and over and over, he's making her company and her richer and richer and richer. Now I gotta say, guys, Donald Trump makes a very good point here. What do y'all think? Now at this point, I think it's very clear that this case is not just about the legal proceedings, but it's also about how justice is being perceived and administered. Now, before we go, guys, make sure you check out my other video titled "Trump is the Only One Who Can Stop World War III," either down here or up here somewhere. I'll even leave a link for you guys in the description down below. It is a very compelling look into the geopolitical dynamics that are definitely shaping our world and how Donald Trump's unique approach could be very pivotal in preventing global conflict. So you can check that video out right now. And hey, if you guys found today's analysis helpful, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that you never miss any updates on the ongoing story. You know, I always aim to bring you guys the most thorough and thought-provoking discussion. So I just want to thank you guys so much for liking the video, subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.